Welcome everyone to our next session for the 2020 SOFA Summit. I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker. It is Greg Iverson with Del Mar Mortgage. Greg, how you doing today?
Yes, sir. I'm wonderful. Thanks. Thanks again for having me. I know it took us a bit to sync up here, so glad to be able to do it.
Yeah, of course, better busy than bored. So what Greg does for investors is he helps them finance the properties using conventional loans, putting 20% down, but he also does so much more. And what we love about Greg is that he actually has an amazing personal portfolio. So he's going to talk a little bit more about his personal experiences and his story. And he's also going to dive into the difference between investing in a turnkey property versus a BRRRR, because he's personally done both. So he really understands the pros and cons of each. Then he's also going to dive into setting a personal budget, being able to create that seed capital to be able to have that 20% down so you can actually grow and increase your net worth, just like Greg has done following this exact step-by-step process. So Greg, why don't you share your screen and take it away?
Absolutely. Well, first, let me just kind of talk through the BRRRR versus turnkey and kind of, for me, how it's evolved, and then we'll do a share screen and I'll walk through the actual budget that my wife and I have used for the last, I guess going on 6 years now. When we had our daughter, we decided we needed to kind of tighten things up a bit. So we'll hit that. But first off, and I know you and I have talked a bunch about it, Mark. I was lucky enough, right when I got out of college, the job market was lousy and I had no idea what I was going to do. And so I go on a fishing trip with my dad, my brother, and my uncle the week after I graduated college, kind of a celebration thing. No idea what I was going to do or where I was headed at that point, and read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. For anybody listening, if you've not read it, shame on you. I'd be surprised. But if you've not read it, it's never too late to read it. So I got lucky and read it right after college graduation. We were on a trout fishing trip. I didn't actually go down to the stream the whole time. I opened up the book and I couldn't put it down. And for a really slow reader like myself, it's saying a lot, that cover to cover in that weekend that I read it, and kind of put me on a path of, financial freedom, or seeking financial freedom, really from day one for me in the working world. And so I was fortunate that it happened at that time. Not really having any idea what I was going to do. I just knew that I was after financial freedom and not a 9-to-5 job pretty much right out of the gate. And so I finished reading that book. And for those that are familiar with the BRRRR method, I started employing that almost right away. And at that point, I didn't even know what the BRRRR method was necessarily. Right. I certainly didn't invent it, but for me, it just kind of the stars aligned. So I went and took out a line of credit on my parents' home. So the house that I grew up in, my dad was all about it. Being a real estate appraiser rather his whole life, not really an investor. He was pumped about the whole idea. For those that remember that time frame, this was 2006 going into 2007, and then ultimately what was potentially the greatest housing collapse in history. And so convinced my parents to let me take out a line of credit on their house. Use that to buy foreclosures, REO properties at that time. Nothing complicated, just going straight into the MLS. There were so many of them at that point. It didn't take any connections or any real working knowledge of how to find the deals yet. And so, so I started doing that. I would buy the property, rehab it using the line of credit, take out a permanent mortgage, and pay my line of credit off. And I did that one time, start to finish, got it rented out, took my money back out, and had no money in it. And I'm looking at it and thinking, this is almost too easy. And for somebody who's a very simple-minded person, had all the time in the world at that time, put my head down and just did it over and over and over again. And so fast forward into my 20s and then early 30s, had put together, I guess at that point, probably 50 to 70 total units probably. Was managing them myself for the most part. Got married and my wife got in the business, and really we both kind of fell in love with the concept. Now, as it relates to our conversation today, that was all well and good. It was building a good portfolio of rentals, a good net worth, all that sort of thing, but not necessarily what I would consider passive income. I had created myself really just another full-time job, and my real passion is in that. So I just as our mortgage business continued to grow, I really didn't want to let it go, because I kept seeing, you know, this is my future. No matter what happens, this is what's going to get me that financial freedom. And so held on, continued to do it. Fast forward, we have children and things. And as it relates to our conversation, I discovered Turnkey, and I was fortunate to find it through the lending side. So I didn't seek out Turnkey for my personal portfolio. Quite honestly, I probably thought I already knew everything. As I started doing loans and discovering the Turnkey model, and with a lack of time, I started to gravitate that direction, you know, and I see a lot of value in the BRRRR method. We have calls constantly of people that want to do it. I think there are a lot of, you know, presentations out there, a lot of things you can find online about the BRRRR method. And don't get me wrong, it's exciting and it can be a great way to build it. Ultimately though, as things have evolved, that's not necessarily a passive income that I'm after. And so dove in and started doing the turnkeys. And at this point in time, as we have young children and my wife is not necessarily as involved anymore, I needed to find a model that I could plug into. And it obviously has a lot of pluses for the beginning investor, because they can plug into that network. They can plug into your team with maybe 100 years of experience combined. You could probably tell me better than that. That's honestly where I really started to see my growth accelerate, because I wasn't on an island doing it all myself, learning by, you know, making the mistakes myself. More so, I could plug into a model, and the property management was in place, all that sort of thing. And that's when the light bulb went off. This is how I can actually reach not just building a net worth and building a portfolio, but truly building a passive, a different lifestyle, you know. And for me, as I'll be 40 this year, as I look back at it, my goal has always been to find that financial freedom, especially with children. I want to be there when they're growing up. I don't want to be a slave to my job. And Turnkey has really helped to you know, fill that void and go into the next step, and also continue to not just be more passive, but learn. You know, I'm not on an island all by myself anymore. I can call you, I can call your team. I still have quite a few properties here in St. Louis that, as you know, I'll call you and ask for tips. I'll call the Reedies and ask them, what do you do in this situation? And especially going into this, you know, we're now in this pandemic, that a lot of fear out there. There's moratoriums on evictions here in St. Louis through the end of the year. A lot of things that could potentially put a squeeze on landlords. I don't have any fear of it at all, because I know I can call people that are in my corner, you know, and I'm not being thrown to the wolves. I'm not out there all by myself, but I can plug into much more experience than I have myself. And so, you know, I just wanted to start by telling you that, because I think the BRRRR is the exciting, everybody wants to do that. You have no money in, you know, create this equity and that sort of thing. It's a lot harder than it looks, I would say. But it's also so much more time that, you know, I really found the value more in that turnkey type model. And so to those that are listening out there that want to tackle the BRRRR method, I don't want to discourage you by any means, but what I do want to say is step back a little bit and think about what you're trying to create. There were times, my wife and I talk about it, that I had just created my worst nightmare. You know, you go through I remember a few years ago, 4th of July weekend, it was 105 degrees here in St. Louis, and we had 6 air conditioners go out. My wife and I were at the lake trying to have a good time, and I spent the entire time trying to find HVAC repairmen,
Right.
Explaining to my tenants that, you know, I don't want this to happen any more than you know. And so I really learned that, you know, being able to plug into a system like that is just super powerful. It's not, this BRRRR thing is exciting, but it comes with some headaches and stuff, you know. Definitely. And if you're not devoting a full-time, I mean, your company, for instance, you have an entire company dedicated to that type model. For the mom and pop shop like what I am, it's a lot in addition to a day job. And
right.
So,
and you were very fortunate, and you were very blessed that you had the proper timing on your side, you know, getting into it in 2007, 2008, 2009, to where you could just go on the MLS and there was a menu of houses and you got to pick, basically, you know,
you're
and you probably
exactly
got
right.
paid to actually buy the house. Now you have to just spend
not that easy.
amount of time on marketing to find these discounted prices. And I love what you said before about how you're able to refinance and pull out all of your capital. Once again, that was incredible 10 years ago. You know, we do BRRRRs now because I completely agree with you, Greg. The BRRRR method is a fantastic way to grow a portfolio. It's just not for everyone. It is a full-time job. You have to be local. Well, I mean, you can do it from afar, but it just increases your overall risk and exposure. And even when
and you're exactly right. You have an entire team dedicated to it. You know, you have a marketing team to source these properties, and you're exactly right. I'd be a fool not to mention that the timing could not have been any better for me. I could make a lot of mistakes and still survive. And you know, you hit the nail on the head. We're not in that type of an environment now, and we may not be. You know, in our lifetimes, you never know. So again, having a team like MIP and the Reedies and you and Sean and everybody, Jennifer, on into your property management division, being able to plug into that is just invaluable, you know. And maybe BRRRRs will come back. Maybe that'll be another thing in the future. I tell my wife now, I'm like, I could see it being kind of exciting if, you know, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road, my kids are wanting to get into it. I could see wanting to teach that to them. But it's really just another full-time job, I think, at the end of the day.
Exactly. It's polar opposite between the turnkey, because the turnkey is for someone that has cash to invest. They have a full-time career, they have a family, and they're just looking for a more passive investment, a place to take the cash they already have and really just diversify from the stock market. That's the main, you know, question that people talk about, is how can I safely and passively diversify from the stock market? And that's what turnkey is. Or you can BRRRR, but that obviously comes with the negatives of it's a full-time job. So do you want another job, or do you want to spend your time focusing on your, you know, your family and your career? Obviously has a lot of risks involved with it as well. Being new, it's very tough to do and create a profit. You know, I mean, hey, we're in construction, you know, we're renovating these houses every single day, and, you know, full transparency, we definitely lose money on some of our flips every single month, because you go into construction, you'll open up a wall and there were things that you just couldn't budget for on the front end. So even with all of our experience, construction's tough. It's like full-time babysitting.
Well, you're exactly right, and you can weather that for the mom and pop shop that does one wrong, and that was probably my biggest fear as I was getting them going. One deal could take me completely under, you know, and you also nailed it, that the out of state piece. I was doing that in my backyard, and again, I'm here in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm, you know, 4 or 5 hours from you. If I tried to do a BRRRR in Memphis, there's no way that I would survive, even at this point, knowing what I know. You know, and being out of market, I mean, that changes it immensely too.
Imagine if you're in California right now, trying to either do it in your backyard in California or in Memphis. Both extremely difficult. One, from California prices are just too high, and then two, Memphis, that's just very difficult from a, you know, logistics overall standpoint.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, it's great, the television series that have been made about flipping houses and things, and it looks super exciting and fun. Like you said, there's an ugly side to it, and you don't always win. And you open something up, and all of a sudden your profit goes to zero, and even worse than that. It's not like it looks on TV, I wouldn't say. So
exactly.
So anyway. That being said, as I progressed, and really what I want to, you know, to dive in here, I could tell you all about our mortgage programs, everything like that. Let's be real, it's not very exciting, A, but B, I think anybody can do that. And what we try to do in our office here, and I do it with my team, friends, everybody, is we focus on budgeting and getting ourselves from where we are today to hopefully that retirement. And it really marries up with real estate really, really well. And especially for those that stock market investing can be great. What I have always liked more about real estate is I can manipulate the returns a little bit more by good management and things like that. When I was in college, it was the whole Enron collapse. And if you remember anything about that, it basically went to show that a lot of CEOs, you just flat out can't trust them, unfortunately. And if you put your whole, you know, life's work into a stock or a few different stocks, and you really have no idea what's going to happen. And we're seeing that even right now, with all the volatility. To me, it looks like a lot of emotion, and I have no control over that. If an investor is wild about a certain stock today or doesn't like that stock today, I could literally gain or lose everything that I've got. And real estate, yes, it is a long, slow build, but if approached that way, I mean, countless times people look back in 20 years. For me, it's going on 15 years, looking back at what it's been able to do over time. And I haven't had those sleepless nights of, I've had probably other reasons not to sleep, but not because of, I'm worried that, my E-Trade account is going to be zero tomorrow, and the ability to leverage. There's just so many things with real estate, tax benefits that you receive. It's, I wouldn't do it any other way, honestly.
Talk more about leveraged appreciation. I love those two words.
Yeah, so back to what I did, and even in the turnkey concept now, you can control. Let's say it's a $100,000 house, for instance. You can control that home for $20,000. If you're doing the BRRRR method, maybe zero, but let's not focus on that right now. You can control that for $20,000 or $25,000. And so, as you can see, if you have $250,000, you could acquire 10 properties that you're paying down, especially with where interest rates are today. But you're paying down those loans, the homes are appreciating. You're creating this middle space, which is equity. And the beauty of it is, as these 10, 15 years have gone by, that equity, that appreciation, the debt pay down, I'm not paying tax on that year to year. Now, again, I will, but there were times when I would look back at even just the debt that we would pay down on 50 properties on an annual basis. At times it was probably more than what I was earning in my day job, and letting it snowball, and it just grows and grows and grows over time. And that's what you can't get in the stock market. I don't think you can within certain limitations, but
riskier.
It's really hard to control $100,000 in stock for 20 grand. And right. If you figure it out, let me know, because I'd line up for it. But that's what you can do in real estate all day, every day, and not have to. If you're taking out long-term fixed rate loans, you're not having to worry about interest rate risk and things like that. It's one less thing to worry about. And for a couple, like my wife and I, we each have 10 of those financed in our own name. So 20 properties you could buy with low, fixed interest rates, and start to build your foundation that way through turnkey and not have to leave your own job.
Because Warren Buffett also says that the 30-year fixed mortgage is one of the best investment vehicles that mom and pop investors have access to, because first of all, it's fixed. So that's incredible. And then if the interest rates increase over time, well, that's okay. You're already locked in at today's rate. So then let's say we're in the environment today where interest rates are going down. Well, what's everyone doing? Refinancing. So either way, it's a win-win situation. And since it's amortized over 30 years, you have such a low mortgage payment on it to where your cash flow allows you to snowball and grow and build on the portfolio. So you can afford more down payments. It's just this win situation.
It's almost too good to be true with where rates are today.
I remember we were talking about at 5% interest rate just a few months ago.
The math made sense when I did.
5 is amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was last year. I think about it, and I locked in 10 of them at 5.4%, and the math made sense and everything was well and good. Well, here we are now in the, middle to high threes. I am a big believer coming out of this, those that are it feels eerily similar to that 08 timeframe that people are running for the doors in certain cases. I'm convinced that the people that stay calm and look at this as a great opportunity with where interest rates are, whether it be acquiring more, refinancing to have those low rates long-term, those are the ones that I believe personally, and this is the way that it worked for me, in 5 years, 7, 10 years from now, we'll look back and that's when the foundation was really built, and I think it's going to treat a lot of investors that are calm and wanting to stay in. I think they'll be rewarded really, really well personally.
Right. And there's also a big difference between 2008 housing market crash and is where we are economically right now in terms of supply and demand of inventory. So let's just say, use Memphis as an example. We were building 4,000 houses every single year leading up to 2008. So we had an oversupply problem. We had too many houses. Well, what's everyone saying right now? I can't find properties. I can't find houses.
Exactly.
Reason being, we're only building 1,000 houses a year still to this day. That's why our properties are still appreciating, because the ones that actually do get built, well, they're $300,000, $400,000 for, you know, the upper income of the world. And so if you have a house that's $60,000, $100,000, $200,000, well, there's no new stock. So supply and demand, it's causing the values to go up. And that's a big difference between 2008 and now.
Oh gosh, it was the exact opposite. Yeah. And I, if you ask me again, personally, I think that's going to continue to, you know, cause the Memphis market and other markets as well to appreciate, especially in that, at that price point for that type of housing. You know, the other piece of it, and then we'll jump into to budgeting. The other piece of it for me right now, where things are, I think, in our economic climate, I think there's so much uncertainty out there. It even provides more and more, I don't want to say appreciation because I don't want to mix it up with actual appreciation, but I think that people are always going to need a place to live. And I admittedly, a couple of years ago, I said, you know, I'm going to start buying commercial property. I started doing some of that, strip center and that sort of thing. And look at it now. You know, I am so glad I didn't do more. And again, it goes back to like day one when I bought the first house. Like the simplest thing about it, people will need a place to live. Technology can grow. You know, all these types of things can happen. And no matter what, people still need a place to live. As we're seeing right now, we just moved into a new office a couple of months ago. And right when I was finishing the project, about to move in, this was prior to COVID, I'm thinking, I don't have enough space. I wish I would have taken on more space so I can continue to grow. As I sit here thinking about it now, I'm so grateful that I didn't, because what if everybody going forward is working from home or these flex type schedules? And you know, you all prove it time and again, you can work from home. A lot of industries can. If you're working from home, you still need a house, you know, and you still need a place for your family to live. And I think the other side of it, people constantly worry about what if everybody becomes you know, there's so many renters in Memphis, for instance. What if they all start buying homes? Well, again, I think that's more demand, which will probably make the value of those properties, you know, more of an entry level or a first time home buyer opportunity. I think that only makes those properties more valuable, you know, and again, continuing to cause more appreciation. So that's a little bit on that story. What I do want to do, so fast forward then, we have our first daughter now almost 6 years ago, and everything is well and good in the, you know, with our real estate and everything like that. It's grown well. I'm starting to see it pay off at that point. But every month, I seem to be bleeding money somewhere, and I'm having a hard time getting my head around it. This is right around the time we had just been married, and I'm starting to think about kids' college and all these sorts of things. I'm no longer thinking about a new set of golf clubs. I'm thinking about what college is going to cost in 20 years. And so really dialed in our personal budget. And so I reached out to a friend and mentor of mine who has this stuff mastered. So admittedly, this budget that I use, most of what I do day to day, I just find somebody who's doing it better than me, and I do exactly what they're doing. And so as this gentleman always says, he believes, and I believe in the bigger pile theory. So what that means, if I'm going to get advice on real estate, why don't I go to the Reedies and Mark and Sean and the whole crew, because they know real estate? Why would I go implement a budgeting plan from somebody who's flat out broke? And so this budget that I use, a friend of mine started using it when he was about $50,000 in credit card debt. Now he's been using it for probably 30, 35 years now, up to $100 million net worth. And the best part about it, he's like me. He's just a grinder. I'm not any smarter than anybody else, but sticking to a plan month in, month out, and doing it, you'll slowly, and for me, it's been the exact same thing. Month in, month out, I look back at the last month's budget. I look back at 4 years ago, and you see how far you've gone with it. And what I want the major takeaway for those that listen to this today is it doesn't need to be complicated. A lot of times, the more complex it is, the less likely you are to do it anyway. And so as it, again, as we talk about investing in real estate, it's important to shore up your finances at home. You know, you're the CFO of your household. You need to really dial that stuff in to be able to invest more and to really track how it's doing and find that financial freedom. So, so what I'd like to do, I'm just going to walk through this is the system that that Jesse and I have used for again, going on 6 years now. Been, you know, incredible for us. If nothing else, we don't argue about money. We know clearly what's going on, and we see where we're headed. You know, it's not just let's buy another property, let's put our head down and not think about the overall plan here. We can see month in, month out where we're headed in 5 years. You know, when kids get to college age, what that looks like for us. And I'll be honest, it makes it a lot easier to go to work every day. You know, when things aren't easy, and we went through, as you and I know, we went through a pretty rocky time there, right when COVID hit, with interest rates swinging wildly. Fortunately, they've really calmed down now. But you know, it gives us reason to get up and go do it every day, because we can see why you know, what the reason is behind it all. So, so let me share my screen here real quick with you. All right, so here we go. So this is the personal family budget. So again, 5 columns. It's super simple. In the first column, and again, keep me posted on how we're doing on time, Mark, but name the bills. So anything month in, month out that you do, and I'll be honest, in the beginning, this takes some time, you know, just if you've never done it before, just to get it down on paper. So don't beat yourself up if you're 6 months in rather, and still trying to figure out what your bills actually are. And this will change over time as you add and take away. In the second column, you've got your survival number. And so what that does is for us, we know exactly what we need to earn every month just to keep our household running. Anything over and above that becomes the money that we're able to invest, do rental property, that sort of thing. In column 3, you've got your total paid each month. So what column 3 and column 5 need to do is they always need to match up. Column 5 is your total paychecks. So essentially, you're tracking what went in to the checking account that month and what went out, every single penny. And let's be real, the college me, if the debit card worked, then there was money in there. Other than that, I probably had no idea how much money was in the account. Now we know to the penny on a pretty regular basis how much we have to work with. So, and then column 4, which is my favorite part, is the amount saved. So it shows you how much of whatever your paychecks are per month, how much is actually being saved, okay? So that's the basic budget. On the bottom, then, you've got your accounts and net worth and balances. And so that's where you can track the growth. And for those that watch the videos that I do on a regular basis, a lot of it is about tracking net worth. I make it a game because, again, it gives clarity to why you're doing what you're doing every single day. And you can see it if it's going up or down. You can make adjustments as you go, okay? So this is the actual family budget. So again, then we've got columns 1 and 2. We name the bills on that left-hand side. I also like to put, if it's a house loan or an auto loan, putting the amount that's still owed and the interest rate. So, you know, we talked about refinancing. Easy for me to look up those bills real quick and say, yep, probably time to refinance the house. Right. You know, maybe the auto loan, maybe I need to get a new car because they have 0% interest right now or something like that. So, so number 1, you want to list what all of those are. And then number 2 is the monthly minimum owed. So in this case, you can see just to run this person's household, $7,800. So if in that month you brought in $15,000, you should be saving that other portion, whether it be, you know, saving for your next rental property or whatnot. You can tally it up there and keep a good eye on it. And for us also, we're big about when you add an expense, delete an expense. And so the reason I say that, if I've got a new expense, let's say we bought a new car, I'm looking through this budget. My goal is to keep that survival number down just as low as I can. It's the same in a business, keeping your overhead as low as you can. You have more cash to reinvest, to invest, period, at the end of the day. And so, so number 2, again, making it a game. I've got a few notes here on the right-hand side. What you want to do, if you do have a credit card balance, you just want to put the minimum owed. Again, this is just to survive each month, how much you need. From there, then, you can play with it and, you know, whittle it away and do what you can to try to knock it down a little bit. So that's column 1 and 2. Column 3 is the total that you actually paid. So if in, you know, budget 2 or column 2 rather, let's say the minimum owed on your on in this case is $475 for the auto loan. If you paid, say, $675, that's what's showing your actual, the total amount that you wrote of those checks. And leading into the next part, which is the savings piece of it. And so number 4, then, anything over and above what you were required to pay on that loan becomes savings. So again, you're seeing you're getting out of debt faster. In this case, also money markets. So you put $500 in the money market fund. So for this person in that month, they saved $10,675. Imagine if you were able to do that month in, month out. You know, we go back to that case of a $100,000 house that you can control for $20,000 down payment. Well, here you go. If you're this person and this is the budget that you're executing, 2 months you've got saved for a down payment. You know, and again, give you a better idea when someone's talking to MIP and saying, okay, I want to buy 7, 8 of these over the next 2 years. Well, you can see what you need to be doing today to actually do that. And rather than just say, this is what I want, actually having a method and being able to execute on that using this really simple form. So tracking the amount that you save, that's the exciting part for me. Column 5, then again, these are the total paychecks. So any money that comes into your account, and it could be a tax refund, it could be rental income, it could be your day job income, any of that sort of thing, tracking the net income each month. And also it shows you what you're actually putting in, you know, so you're able to make it jive with your monthly minimum owed, and you can see where the whole savings piece comes into play. So so that's in column 5. In this case, it's looks like husband and wife, each paycheck for them that came in, totaling to the $18,000. After paying bills, we're able to save $10,000 in a given month. So then you can start to actually track where it's going. So in the beginning, what you want to do is you want to just list what your balances in each of those accounts are. So if you have retirement accounts, if you have equity and rentals, that's a fun one to watch grow. Shame on this person, they don't have any equity and rentals, but that's the fun one to watch grow, because each month, if you're factoring a certain appreciation number, for instance, and then you're paying down that debt, that equity and rentals each month is growing, right? No matter what, you know, there'll be blips and things, but overall, over the long haul, that's growing over time. And then the personal family budget, the accounting and net worth. This is where it becomes the game. You know, I look at it each month to see where we were the previous month and where we are this month. Again, the idea is that it's going up and not going down. You'll see on there also giving. You know, as this has all evolved for us, we found that a lot of true wealth, in my opinion, is being able to to give freely. It's not necessarily about a nicer car, not for me anyway, but the ability to help others out, especially as we've gone through what has been a very tough time for a lot of industries. Fortunately, the real estate and mortgage industry have not necessarily felt that for the most part, but a lot of industries have, you know. And so for us over the last several months, being able to give and being able to help out, tracking that has made us feel great again about what we're doing day to day, why we're actually showing up to work each day. So so that is it. This is the entire budget completed. Again, the main thing, if there is one takeaway from here, as you begin to do it, getting column 3 and column 5 to add up every single time. So there's not money, I mentioned when we first started doing it, money just bleeding out of the account. We have no idea where it's going, you know. So now we track how much we spend at Starbucks and stuff like that. And it's not as boring or tedious as it may seem once you start to get it set up. But again, the value in seeing that grow and how much you're able to accumulate and save each month, it's just staggering. Without it, you know, it's kind of like driving to Memphis or to Nashville and not having a map, you know, just jumping in the car and saying, we don't know when we're going to make it. We don't know what direction we're going. We don't even know how much gas we need, but we're going to Nashville. We're going to Memphis. You know, this actually gives you a tried and true month in, month out plan. So, so that's a lot of it. So, and then the final slide here is just a cheat sheet. Again, tracking everything is super important. Every penny, like I said, paying off revolving debt first, you know, so those high interest rate, again, goes back to the overhead. The lower overhead you can have, the more money you have to invest. You know, and if you've got a credit card that's 18% interest, you know, you need to get that down as fast as you can just to be able to have that free excess capital to be able to invest elsewhere. So, so doing that first, maximizing what I call a float account. It's we carry 6 months. I recommend 3 months minimum. So again, in that example where, you know, your monthly bills are about $8,000, keeping a float account of $24,000 plus in case you do have a bad month. Again, as it pertains to real estate and investing in real estate, if you've got a clear mind and you're not worried about if the car needs a tune-up, or, you know, if the market does struggle a little bit over time, you're not worried about paying your own bills, you know. And as I teach our team here, you're much more effective day to day and at work and everything else in life with your families and things if you're not stressing out, you know, over every little expense that might pop up. So building a good survival account there, maximizing that. And then finally, the most important part is then begin to invest. You know, real estate, again, real estate happens to be my favorite. There are some out there that, of course, want to have a balance of equities and real estate, but getting those things shored up so you can invest and really take it to a whole nother level from there. So Mark, in a nutshell, and hopefully I got through that in a reasonable amount of time. I could probably talk to you for hours and hours and hours about it. If you know, if you ever have questions, or if MIP's clients or our clients, certainly the transparency in this and how simple it is to do month in, month out, it may seem really hokey, but it is amazing what you can do even in a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year period. I mean, we have stories in our office of people that, you know, when they first came to work with me had not even thought about a budget, to now knowing, as they've had children and things like that, knowing what their financial future looks like. It makes it a lot more pleasant around the office, you know, when things are a little chaotic or whatnot, we're all still kind of swimming in the same direction. We understand that it's just a game, you know. And so, so that being said, I'll turn it back over to you if there are any questions about it. I could, like I said, I could probably talk to you for days about it. So.
Of course, no, this is great. What we really like about this is that it's a step-by-step process and proven by multiple individuals that have found success in it. So, you know, you're not just guessing, like you were saying before with driving cross country, the analogy, just hoping you end up in your destination. This has actually been proven to actually work. And all you have to do is follow these, you know, 9 pages. And that's the same thing that we get with you, you know, at Del Mar Mortgage. If you want to get a loan, you've got an incredible process that you can put people through, and you work every single day to work out the kinks, to make sure that you get it dialed in and as smooth as possible. And that's everything that we do here at Memphis Investment Properties and Reedy & Company. Is just every single day, we call it Kaizen, just be better every single day, improve those processes, and you know, be replicatable and duplicatable, but also follow something that has already been proven to work and just duplicate that success.
This is like plugging into a turnkey system, you know. This may be a little bit more work for the investor in this case, but it's really simple, you know. I mean, you all have the tried and true method that, you know, talk to this lender, do this piece, and you're in the system, you know. And this is the same thing. It's working at the same thing over and over. You know, I've heard it time and again, and it couldn't be more true. Good business is very, very boring. It's not ups and downs, all crazy excitement everywhere. A profitable business, a family that gets ahead in life with their budget, with their savings and things like that. It's boring. It's the same thing month in, month out, but the things that it can do for your life are, you know, incredible. Exactly. You know, you could hang out with Mark on his boat wakeboarding, you know, and not worrying about what's going on back at the office. So yeah, I think the two marry up very, very well. And, you know, back to the beginning and talking about, you know, BRRRR versus turnkey. So much easier to track a turnkey if you're investing in turnkey. So much easier for the casual investor to track what's going on when they're not making every call management-wise, showing every property, you know. And I've been there before, and it's hard to work on the business if you are right in the middle of it every single day, and emotions are running high, and you're worried that, you know, if a tenant moves out and stuff like that. And so treating it much more like a business for sure.
Yeah, well, hey, we appreciate you spending the time here to dive into both of these topics. Hope you guys found a lot of value during this session. And that's it. We appreciate you, Greg. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me. By the way, your couch looks a little more comfortable than mine here.
You know, if you got to film all these videos, you got to keep it coming.
Truth be told, I've got three little sleeping angels at home, so I didn't want to wake them. So I figured my sofa summit would be here right in my comfortable, cozy office.
That is fair. That is fair. All right. Well, we'll let you go. We appreciate you, Greg. And that's it for this session. Have a good.
Yep. Thanks again, Mark.
All right. Bye, Greg.
See ya.